viewers of the videos again.
Crowd as well, which is. Right, I'm here with Lloyd, and we've been watching lots of films at the BFI, so as a quick introduction, we're going to talk about them. So Lloyd, what stood out to you most of all for all these films that we saw?
Well, there were a few things that kind of themes that ran through all of them that stood out to me. One of them was the absolute segregation between men and women in terms of their function in society. So the boys at school did very different things from the girls at school, and it was very clear. There was a very clear path for them to follow, and men were about making stuff and repairing stuff. It seems, it was just that was what you did. It's been really interesting for me to see what a manufacturing industry really looks like, and how far we've come from that. And I think there's a lot. The thing we talked about on the day a lot was this: how we're steadily abstracted from that. The digital age is an abstraction from that manufacturing industry, and it really brought it home to me seeing men making stuff out of wood and leather and cloth and glass, and that being their entire life. It's so far from what we do. I very rarely pick up a hammer ever, and that was one thing. I think the other thing was it's partly the same thing. It's partly the thing about natural materials. What I was really struck by was there's no plastic anywhere, so everything was wood or metal or leather. They were making stuff out of stuff that had grown or come from an animal. And I think that's something that we don't think about a great deal either. That's changed enormously with the impact of plastic. Well, I was really touched by the film about the Austin Rover plant, because I grew up near there and I saw, I was there's some external shots of it, and in the last year that whole complex has been completely flattened and levelled, and I was really touched to see the place because when I was growing up in the 70s, it was British Leyland. It was where people went to go to not do very much work and to go on strike, and then it was but to see it as a real working factory with people making stuff and obviously being proud of it and being part of the local economy and all of the kind of the whole thing of 20,000 people all working in the same thing, for the same idea of making cars, just making 400 cars a day, rolling out of it, was really, it kind of gave me a real feel of the reality of the history. I don't know, is that enough?
I think that's great. Yeah, I mean, the one thing I'd add, if I can pass the camera to you, is the thing that fascinated me about the industrial thing. A lot of the documentaries that we were watching were kind of wartime documentaries in one way or another, and there was an incredibly strong sense that Britain would win the war through its industry, and that what we were watching wasn't so much a battle between armies, but a battle between factories and a battle between people producing things. And it's remarkable that whole industrial thing was so central to British identity and so key to this kind of great epic victory, and it just doesn't exist anymore. Within a generation or two, it's completely disappeared. So I think you're right. I mean, for me, I'm not from Birmingham, I don't know Longbridge, but the thought of that fundamentally core factory, you know, this thing that British identity was built around, going from somewhere that employed, what was it, about 20,000 people, I think, to being an empty piece of land in the space of a generation is just incredible. So yeah, incredibly interesting. Lots of other stuff there as well that I think we're both going to be writing about over the next couple of weeks. So if this was radio, don't touch that dial.